That's very important that we think under this framework of a changing, challenging world that is going to happen. Not for 5 years, because the blueprint will be for 5 years, but I think our eyes should be very much towards a much longer term vision, which goes to 2050 and to the challenge that we will face. My final word, introductory word, because you don't want me to, is definitely about our focus on these OneMap and One Humanity. Since the very beginning, the mission of the UN Geospatial Network is to bring coherence and to strengthen coherence and coordination of global geospatial information management across the UN system. It's obvious that we need to bring together one platform where we can share geospatial information, not for the sake of the UN system itself, not for the sake of the growth from 25 entities to 42 entities that we are now in the network. It's for the service that we can provide to member states. And it's for the supporting the geospatial information shared in this platform will help us to support the use cases on the ground with the member states and the communities around that. So we have these two legs, which is at the same time we strengthen coordination of geospatial information across the UN system. It's not for our own sake to make these maps available for ourselves, even if that is a fantastic achievement, because we can use a standard map, one map, and we can use a standard information that we can share across the whole 42 entities of the UN system. But the major purpose is how this can be used for member states, for tackling the 5 pillars of the United Nations. Okay? Because member states need this, they request that they need this information for taking decisions and actions on the ground. And this is more and more important. Now I bring the other challenge on the table. I've never witnessed a world of change as we are facing today. Every day we have bad news, not good news, on peace and security, that on wars and conflicts everywhere, with a regional base, but that has a global impact. Okay? We've never seen these happening before. It's the 21st century brought regional wars with global impact. Okay? But the number of regional wars is unprecedented as well. So at the same time, we have regional wars and conflicts everywhere with the global impact. The same goes immediately, because this triggers effects on humanitarian, this triggers effects immediately on human rights, this triggers effects on sustainable development. Because then we have the trade-off, because if the priority needs to be on peace, security, humanitarian, human rights, we cannot be, for sure, on sustainable development. And so we have a lagging behind sustainable development tracks. And all of these is because we live in an international rule of law that continues to be challenged all along the way on any of these pillars. So my last thought is how this geospatial, the OneMap, and that's why the triggering thing is OneMap with humanity, because not only can be used on member states on sustainable development, because that's the primary focus, the immediate focus, but can be used for the system of interactions between the 5 pillars. And that's why I was so happy, and we will discuss more about these, about and now I praise my second vice chair, Amelie, and the work that the different working groups are doing on the geo-communities, because the geo-communities have to go one by one on addressing all these different factors, whereas we're talking about the use of satellite imagery in common, where we're discussing about the use of artificial intelligence in the on top of geospatial, etc., etc. So it will be very important that these geo-communities, again, very much tied with the GGIM communities, these can go in detail on analyzing how this information can come together for the 5 pillars. Okay. There's one, later when we put together this OneMap thing, there's one common trend in all of these. All of this cannot be made possible if we look inside on the 42 agencies working together and we are very happy that we are great peers working together. This can only happen if we look outside. And looking outside, I can see around the table a number of partners and the citizen science associations. We have worked very much with OpenStreetMap because OpenStreetMap will be instrumental in widening the scope of all of these. We're looking at the GLOCHA and the Global Challenge Community, call it Mirror, because we have partnered with them already in the previous COP. And so what I'm trying to say, and definitely last but not least, because I will give the word and the floor, hopefully we can have a Tat and San talking in terms of the private sector, it's not only on our interest on the funding, that should be stated from the outset, it's about the interest on the partnership to leverage the geospatial to the development communities on the ground, to the youth-led communities on the ground. So all these are very instrumental. So nothing of our work can be leveraged if we don't trust on the partnerships. And those partnerships start with us, of course, start with the GGIM other networks. We are paving the way to have a much more demonstration of how we work with the private sector network, academic network, geospatial societies. Start with the partnerships with the working groups of the GGIM. So I'm still talking about us, about the 42 agencies working together, but I'm really encouraging you to discuss during these days how we can strengthen the partnerships with the outside world. Citizen Science Association, OpenStreetMap, private sector, etc. Because that will be our measure of success of making this happen. And I'll stop here because this was supposed to be remarks for kickstarting and throwing the Olympic flame into the meeting room for us to start discussion.